Welcome to the Design Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whyte, and in this podcast series, we explore the career journeys of design and engineering leaders from the world of physical product development. In this episode, I'm joined by Chris Johnson, previously Global Head of Design at Speedo, who famously designed the record-breaking Fasken suit for Olympic swimmers. We discuss his journey from studying at Coventry University, working for FactoryDesign before joining Speedo, and now running his own design studio, and writing a design leadership book. We cover some of the challenges he's overcome, his advice on how to stand out as a design candidate, and much, much more. The intro music's already faded, so I guess we should get on with the show. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So Chris Johnson, he's started his life at Coventry University, or started his design life, I should say, Coventry University, studying transportation design. Later went on to study an MBA, getting an MBA. And prior to that, started with Seymour Powell, before then moving on to FactoryDesign for a few years, then Bombardier, aerospace and rail industry, before then settling on at Speedo, where you spent about 16 years kind of leading the team up to design director at the end of it and global head of designs. And today, perhaps you could tell us what you're up to today, Chris.
Yeah, so last year I set up my own design studio, offering design and management consulting solutions, which enhance performance for fashion, luxury and sports brands.
Fantastic.
So I launched the book last year, so I also offer design coaching on a one-to-one basis.
Fantastic. So on today's podcast, we're going to talk about your journey from the beginnings at Coventry University through to kind of designing an Olympic swimwear range to kind of launching your own book and your own business. So again, thank you for joining me. So well, let's start right at the beginning then, if that's okay. So you studied transportation design, but then don't think you did much transportation, although saying that, FactoryDesign, that was interiors, wasn't it? So talk me through kind of what led you to kind of choose that as a course, and how did that come about?
Well, I've always loved drawing. So as a kid, I was good at drawing. Like, it gets reinforced when your parents say, that's great. And so I did that. I love nature. So drew birds and stuff, and I won a RSPB bird art competition when I was a kid. Judged at Loddy. So I did that, but then I also loved cars as well. So I was drawing cars because my dad was an engineer, my uncles were filmmakers. I remember walking around their factory, seeing all the molds they're making for Black & Decker and Flymo. And I won a Nissan in the 90s car design competition when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
So even back then, I had the seed in my mind, like design, art. And then when it came to going to university, I had the option of, it was fine art at Aberystwyth. So a bird artist, or Coventry car design. I chose car design. I think at the time I was too concerned with the prospect of maybe being a kingless artist. So I went down the route and spent 4 enjoyable years there, and it was fantastic. But what I learned was I love cars, vehicles, but I didn't love car design as much as some of my peers on the course. So it made me realise that I love variety, and the design consultancy was probably more suitable for me for what I was after.
It's so difficult, isn't it, in those kind of formative years to really know what you want to do when you grow up. And that's something that as a child you get asked all the time. And you might have these pipe dreams to do something. In reality, a lot of people don't know what they want to do, but they learn along the way what they don't want to do. That's certainly been my experience. It sounds similar to yourself. So you did the stint at Seymour Powell, then was that an internship? Was that your placement year?
Yeah, so that was a 6-month placement in the summer of 19 before I went back for my final year at Coventry, and it was amazing. It was when they were based in the chapel in West Kensington.
Wow.
So working with that super talented team, I loved it.
Yeah, and what a start. I mean, there's such a fantastic reputation, and a young student, you would have soaked up all of that energy, I bet. So how did that come about then? How did you manage to land that internship versus other things?
So in the third year at Coventry, they go for a process of you'd apply for industrial placements. So all these interviews would crop up, All the big car brands would come in, like boat brands as well. And I went to I went to nearly 10. I went to a lot of the car ones, and I wasn't getting them. And it wasn't till it was a single. And when I look back, I think, well, maybe because my portfolio I wasn't a petrol head. It wasn't just like, dripping in car, where I had a bit of everything. And I had motorbikes in there as well. And so it just worked. It works out perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously when you graduated, then you started at FactoryDesign. So I spoke to Stefan Bridges the other day, who you were kind enough to introduce me to. So thank you for that. And he mentioned that to get the role at Factory, they were quite a tiny little agency at the time, and I think he posted his portfolio over to Adrian. Similar kind of situation for yourself, or how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, I posted my CV and started a portfolio.
Yeah.
It was a connection because I'd been at Seymour Powell, and Adrian and Adam had been partners there. So they then gone on and set up Factory.
Okay.
Again, it's like you can see the power of the network. So it's because of the Seymour Powell thing, it's actually getting an interview for Factory, and so I went and it was fantastic. I was successful in getting a job there. I was the second employee, so Stefan was the first. He was already there, and it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Really steep learning curve. The environment, similar like a startup consultancy, but they were growing rapidly, and also a lot of responsibility. You were involved in every lot of process model making, concept sketches, design development. 2D CAD at the time. I didn't have 3D CAD skills, and also there was 4 very experienced directors, so you're like with them, so like one-on-one, getting that knowledge and experience and guidance. So I feel very fortunate to have had that experience. And the fact not to that, I mean, Stefan might have mentioned as well. And so the first project was Concord, so working on an iconic project, such as that show is Concord, straight out of university. I mean, wow, that was it was amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So it's a shame. Obviously, it's a shame with what happened with Concord, but to work on that project at that time and get the mentorship, I suppose, of the senior directors. I can't imagine many young kind of designers get that opportunity these days. So it's especially with kind of remote working and all that's now the trend.
Yeah, and I think when you do
that one-to-one mentorship.
Exactly, when you do the remote working, you're not in the office. You're not those ad hoc moments where you get to learn or have a chat with one of the directors. You've got to be around the more experienced designers to soak everything up. So there's
absolutely
lots of benefits to remote working, but you think at that age, I think you miss out if you're in the studio for long periods.
Yeah, totally agree. So then you moved on to Bombardier. So I presume that was up in Derby, was it?
Yes, Bombardier Transportation, Derby, the only remaining train manufacturer in the UK at the time. And I've done 5 years at Factory, but I had this feeling that consultancy is brilliant, but I had this sort of itch like, I wonder what it's like to just design vehicles, like I trained for Coventry, but also experience working in-house just on that one product. And so I was successful, got a role as an industrial designer in the Bombardier Industrial Design Studio, and that was a very different experience, really different, but in a good way. So where the consultancy had given me, support in going to see clients, like the front end part of the process, quick turnaround projects, part of doing a bit of everything. Working in-house, I got to develop my 3D skills on Alias, working on the job, and also, the technical skills process, because you're working, we had specialist economists in the office as well. So you had about 20 industrial designers, economists, but then outside you had all different functions of engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, car bodies, aerodynamics, production engineers. It was a huge global business, and it was fascinating. It certainly strengthened me in terms of my methodical approach to design and process-led the ergonomics as well, designing cab interiors, designing to very strict guidances and rules around what you could do. On the exteriors as well, down to safety aspects and reliability. And so, but it was great. And being there and going deep. So being there and the knowledge deep into that product and seeing it all the way through. If you want it to, there's an issue on this idea on the project, right? Let's go down to the production line, get on the vehicles, have a walk around. Let's have a look at it on the actual product.
Yeah, and that's from my experience, having access to a factory or kind of a model shop or workshop is one of the key selling points for an opportunity. That when I'm speaking to candidates in the market, it's they've got the choice between two options, and one's got a factory and one's just got the studio. Quite often the factory wins out because as a designer, seeing your products come to life and being able to be on hand and deal with day-to-day issues as well as they come up, rather than being at arm's length, that's invaluable. So, so that must have been incredible then, and a bit of a culture shock as well. I mean, how many people were in factory by the time you left?
6 or 7.
Yeah, so still quite a small team, and then Bombardier, I imagine hundreds in the, if not thousands in the factory, and
yeah, probably thousands on site. So going from a consultancy to like a large engineering-led business like that, different. Had to wear shirt and trousers every day. So it's a bit more formal in the office, but it's
absolutely.
And working on underground commuter trains, high-speed trains.
Yeah. So then you went and did something completely different again and you joined Speedo in the Aqua Lab. So that's where you've spent the bulk of your career. So yeah, how did that come about then? So going from underground trains to Aqua Lab equipment. So yeah, tell us about some of the stuff you worked on there and how you got involved with that.
So again, I've been at Bombardier design trains 5 years, and I wanted to progress. I wanted to be a senior designer, another responsibility that I brought on. So I knew Speedo was in Nottingham, and so I was looking into it. But also, I've always been a swimmer. I've always loved sport, so I grew up swimming. Like from the age of 11, I swam at a club, swam every morning before school. So for me, the Speedo role would be an opportunity to combine my love of design and swimming. So I kept checking the website, and then third attempt, of trying this, the ideal role came up for the Speedo Aqua Lab, which is their top secret research and development department, based in Nottingham. And so I did a project. I think it was design a triathlon racing suit. It was an interview project, and 2 or 3 interviews. I was really, really fortunate and got the role and started in November 2000.
Wow, good memory, yeah. Well, that's what LinkedIn tells me anyway. So, so were you looking at anything else at that time then, or were you pretty focused on Speedo being the only option versus what you were currently doing at the time?
I was looking around, but I think because I really enjoyed my role at Bombardier. So to move, it had to be something with the senior level to it, but also a product area that I always enjoyed, and I believe I could do justice and do a good job. I put my heart and soul into, so that's why I kept pursuing it. And like I said, there's a couple of roles came up. I kept checking the pen and around careers part of the website. Probably wasn't suited for those, so I got the rejection letters in the post, but I didn't give up. And then the one which was ideal. Third attempt, and the Aqua Lab team, that one came up.
Fantastic. So there's a lesson in perseverance there then. So to anyone listening that's job searching at the moment, keep going, because probably not going to be lucky enough to get a rejection letter for each application you put in these days because of how easy it is to apply for things. But you certainly keep going, especially if it's a big brand. They'll have multiple different hiring managers and different kind of talent managers as well. So just because you've been rejected from one role doesn't mean you can't then apply for another role, which worked out for you, didn't it? So fantastic.
I was just going to say as well, and the other thing I had to do to get that role Speedo was, so I've moved from consultancy to then in-house vehicle design, but then doing swimwear. So this was apparel design. So how does an industrial designer then become a fashion apparel designer? Because at the time, the Aqua were doing radio boots. But fortunately, the team there, so it was a role as it was a senior designer, performance designer, the one designer on the performance projects in but in cross-functional teams. So you had a material specialist, product development specialist,
Okay.
garment engineers. So you were that pivotal role, just like helping gel all the ideas together into concept. But they saw that because I worked on trains and it was like aerodynamics, making vehicles go fast, they could see the similarity in how you could apply that to apparel design, hydrodynamics, try to make an athlete go faster. Looking at the functional aspects, looking for performance improvement. So yeah, that really helped. And then also because I was a swimmer, I was in the City Derby Swimming Club. I took it on myself to do a little mini project. So I designed a racing suit off my own back and put that portfolio. So it made it more specific. So I think they could then, it wasn't as much of a leap. They could see that, oh, actually this guy could translate his skills into swimsuit design. So
yeah, that's a great insight there, Chris, because I think as a recruiter, there's been many occasions where I've been working with clients and you look at how they've recruited and you think, what if they've recruited that guy? He's come from he's been designing trains and now he's designing swimwear. How does that work? But that story is brilliant because it does show that with the determination and with the going the extra mile and doing a project, but also combining your passion, that's obviously going to drive you there, isn't it? So I think for anyone listening, if you're passionate about something, don't just write yourself off because you think, because I've been designing trains, I can't design this thing that they're doing. Those core skills are still there. You just got to show that you want it enough. So
yeah,
fantastic. So that brings us kind of up to that. Obviously you progressed through your career, kind of leaving them kind of fairly recently as kind of design director. What were you responsible for? A whole bunch of things then, I suppose, rather than just swimwear, because there's all the kind of the hard goods as well, isn't there, that you were responsible for?
Yeah, hard goods, call it soft goods. All the swimsuits. Hard goods was like goggles, equipment, footwear. But while I was in the Aqua Lab, and then I moved into the mainline design after 6 years. But I also, for a time, I was industrial design lead for the hard goods for Berghaus, category, Mitre, and Speedo. So that was sort of working within Penland, the opportunities that it gave. So we are in the head of design and design director roles at Speedo. It was everything. All the product portfolio and products that go globally. So it was really interesting designing for different markets and cultures around the world, and leading a team of graphic designers, apparel designers, industrial designers, and doing things that you wouldn't do in industrial design. Additional designer wouldn't always be asked to build a creative direction and a colour palette for a brand. You're doing with your team, but that was something that, having moved to Speedo, taking on the apparel, the fashion design aspects of design, merging it together with my industrial design process. So that was it made me quite rounded and something that I loved. It's
that's really interesting. I mean, I've spoken to a few companies recently, kind of really long established brands that you'd think have got a brand identity because you recognize the logo and the products they do, but actually speaking to them, they'd want a senior industrial designer or a lead industrial designer to go in and not only design products, but also set the roadmap and the strategy around kind of the visual brand language and all that kind of stuff. You think, well, hang on, you've been going 50 years. Have you not got that? Sort of, you've got an identity, but I think it's certainly in some engineering firms, it kind of gets kind of overlooked. You just get on with developing the products, but in the kind of big world of marketing and online retail now, you've got to have an actual strategy around it, haven't you? So yeah, that's really interesting. And how many people were kind of under your wing then? By the time, kind of at its peak, I suppose.
I was about in this Speedo.
So talk me through some of the kind of the challenges that you've overcame, or your kind of career highlights, I guess. Obviously, the notable one, I think, is if you're allowed to talk about it, is the shark skin. It's probably am I right in saying it's probably the most famous thing that you've been involved in?
Yeah, been involved in the Fasken project at the Olympics. So I joined the Aqua Lab and it was in the run-up to the Beijing Olympics 2008. And so the team had was more or less finished, the original Laser Racer suit, and so it was amazing to be in this, to see this team and the setup and the strategy they had, their network of experts and coaches and swimmers around the world that contributed and built this suit. And yeah, it was a magical time, because then when the Olympics happened, this suit, like, world records were like being broken, like, every other day. And I think at the Beijing Olympics, something like 98% of all medals were won with athletes wearing that Laser Racer suit. So it was, it was great learning for me to be in that team and see what it takes, the formula to build these performance enhancing products. And then, even to when I left, I've always been involved in every 4 years that Olympic cycle of the product development, whether it's on the swimsuit and then the goggles, the equipment as well. So then for London, there was rule changes to swim equipment, and so it was about the system. So how could you improve the handover of flow through the water? So it was about the cap, the goggles, and the suit. I mean, a lot of my work was involved in the goggles. So for me, I think one of the highlights, especially around that Olympics for London 2012, was redesigning with the team. It's always a massive team effort. I'm just the designer in there, helping bring and synthesize all these thoughts and ideas together. But we created the Fasken Elite Goggles, which at the time generated quite a few patents. There was a lot of world bursts. So there was like a one-piece racing strap, so it had no dangly bits. And it was numbers, so you could adjust. You could always go back to your training tension from your racing tension. So that was a behaviour like swimmers usually. They're worried about the goggles falling off from the dive in, so they'll tighten them. But then we also we used head scanning technology to improve the fit of the gasket, the seal around the eye. So, and the product in the end, you could actually put them on your face, dive in without a strap, and they wouldn't fall off your face. That was the level of comfort that the team had achieved. So. And then also to reduce using computational fluid dynamic simulation, CFD, the team was able to reduce drag by shaving off some of the cross-sectional area of the goggle at the corner. So goggles always had like an elliptical shape, but you need forward vision and then decent peripheral vision. You would change it so it would affect this vertical down transition. So then it improved. So you had a single curvature rather than double curvature at the side. So you had less issues with the vision, but then it just changed the aesthetic, and it reduced the drag. So all these little marginal gains just all came together into this new product, and then a lot of the competitor brands have. And if you look at the all like racing goggles in the market now, generally they have that it's not elliptical, it's that lens shape. And then so that was as a designer, and then I was fortunate later on the product life cycle of that product, then it was to be renewed. Then I was able to lead the team through the evolution of it, which was the Elite Goggle, which launched a couple of years ago. Fantastic. So that was a great experience to then research, what had worked well with the consumers and what could be evolved and improved.
And I guess all along you kind of tread a very kind of fine line between kind of what, I guess it's similar to F1, kind of trying to take the technology and the design to as close to the limit as you can without breaking the rules, because I guess it's fractional gains give you an unfair advantage, don't they, in those sports? So how was that managing the team's ambition to develop something fantastic versus kind of the hang on, guys, we've got some rules to stick to here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same with any project. There's always rules, like whether it's for safety or whether it's for the good of the sport. Design is around doing the best you can within that remit parameters. But yeah, it was always like front of the mind, like they've got to follow the rules for the integrity of the sport. But within that, what can we do? What stone we left unturned? Where are the biggest opportunities? Fit, comfort, vision, ease of use. What is it? And you discover that through the research, which is just critical for finding those inserts, those novel those insights, those novel insights, which can then create step changes. But if you can't do that, you just going to keep churning out what was done previously.
Absolutely, yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so fast forward to today then. You've just released a book. So Design Lead Succeed, I think is the title.
Yes, 48 rules to bridge the gap from designer to design leader. It's a
Brilliant.
couple.
So I might put you on the spot here. What's your favorite rule? There we are.
That's a good question. Yeah, probably out of all 48. So what's have a look? I mean, I've put them all in for a good reason. I think if you distill it down, my favourite be set shared principles. That's one of my favourites. It's about. So when you lead in a team, it really helps to gel a team together if you have this set like values or principles for your design team, and because it just it helps to keep egos in check, it helps to keep it front of mind of like what you're trying to achieve and in what manner. So then they're not, because businesses have them. They might have like values like courage, like quality or something. But for a design team, what does that mean? So you've got a design team in that brand of business. How do you make it relevant to a designer so they can like apply to the design work? So then, if you by taking that and building off that, so you're building specific design principles for the team members that they've built with you. So they're brought into it. It just really helps. So things like you could have things like no egos, eat your own dog food. So there's that's about like testing your own products. So if you're going to design, you got to try stuff.
I like that one.
And I think I came from Microsoft in the early days. Came from IT that, and
really,
maybe stay curious. It could anything, good designs. Down to the last detail, maybe take influence from other design principles. But if you set them for your team and you have them, then when you're doing things like design reviews as well, you're looking at the objective and the brief for the project, but also how are you designing? Are we being curious enough? Are we, if there's a principle there about team first, it's a good way of reminding people to check them in and like, no, you've been, don't be selfish. Think about the team. Let's work together on this.
Yeah.
It's an indirect way of doing it. And so I've always found it to be really powerful.
But I mean, drawing parallels with teams that I've managed as well, and it's all well and good having some slogans on the wall about courage and values and things like that. But if they're not reinforced by communication and through regular reviews, so your team have got to be bought into that mission and those values, and it's got every time you're impacting that mission, how is what we're doing kind of enhancing that mission, or is it detracting from it? And I think that's so important. But that comes from leadership and trickles down, doesn't it? You've got to be constantly communicating it, because if it's just on a wall or in a handbook, no one looks at it, do they? It's just that you walk past it every day and you kind of you pay it lip service. So.
But like you say, it's cascaded down from the leadership, the owner of the business. But it's a way of, if you build those specific design principles which apply to design, and the designer can see that connection, and they are attached to the business's values and principles, you've got your design team in line with the strategy of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps everything kind of aligned and kind of. I listened to a podcast of featuring Benjamin Hubert recently, and that Leia have a very defined kind of way of design. The Leia products, they look like Leia products, and that's something that he said he instilled in the team. Obviously, he's still very involved in the design, so I suppose that has an influence on it. But everyone's driving towards the same kind of mission and goal with the same kind of criteria, I guess. So it's it's fantastic. What would you say have been some of the biggest kind of learning opportunities for you so far in your career?
I'd say probably through those times where you've had knockbacks. So you say about progression to design leadership. I found it really, really tough to break through that door. I'd done 10 years as a designer. So I was a senior designer at Speedo, but I wanted to get into management. And so I applied for a head of design. This is like 2000 the role. And I got some of the best advice I probably had in my career from the VP of product at the time. They interviewed me, they listened, because I believed, I could do this role. I've got the skills I could do, so I could be head of design. But they said, well, you've got no experience of leading people and being a line manager. There's no evidence. And, this is a bigger team. And it's probably too big a risk for a business to move someone into that role. And in hindsight now, I understand why, because they're right. People management is one of the most difficult things, and everything that comes along with it.
Oh, yeah.
So from that, I took a sideways move and went into the mainline design team. There's a senior designer for mainline, so I couldn't progress to leadership in the R&D team, but I did that, and then that role evolved into design manager, and then everything happened from there. And I did the MBA as well as a way of 5 years part-time study as well as working. I was that committed because I was like, I want to get into design leadership. I want to experience having more control over the process, more influence, more control. And even though I'd done that, it gave you the theory. It was fantastic. It improved your critical thinking, but it still wasn't the on the ground working, leading people in your career. So yeah, when it happened, I got a design manager role. It was Tim Sharp at the time. Promoted me, did that, being the boss at the time. So I'm thankful to Tim for believing in me. And it started from there. But that was probably one of the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people resonate with that as well. I speak to a lot of senior designers and engineers who they maybe have done kind of 5 years at their current place, and they feel like they're ready to step up into management. And my advice to them is either stay where you are and get promoted, which often isn't achievable for them because of the structure in place, or take a sideways move, like you had to internally take a sideways move where there is opportunity to progress, and I'll develop you. Because I think, like you said, a business taking a punt on someone who's not managed a team to then say, you're the manager now, there's a very steep learning curve when it comes to managing people. Managing projects is one thing when you don't have those people kind of under your care, because you become as a manager, you don't become a boss, you become a carer, you become a therapist, a teacher. There's many different hats that you have to wear as a manager, that until you are in that position, I don't think companies do a very good job of kind of giving you that kind of warts and all. People aspire to be managed because they feel like they've got to step up. It's the way that your career goes, but it's really, really difficult.
And the other aspect of that, I think, which a lot of design managers struggle with, is that transition as well. So you're still expected by the business to deliver outstanding design work, but then you now have to manage the project, manage a few other designers. So when do you do your design work in between doing the planning and the managerial part? When do you do it in the day? Which takes priority? And that juggling is really tough. But I think as your team, I talk about it in the book as well, as your team gets bigger and grows, you can then move away from that, especially if you've got another layer of reports. You have design managers reporting to you. You can then separate yourself and then just focus on the design leadership, strategy, steering, the design reviews, dipping in when you have to. Which makes you better in that role, because it's so difficult when you've got a small design team.
Absolutely, yeah. So, would you recommend? Would you do the MBA again? Had you had the choice?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do it again. It was part of my journey. I was curious about it. Working in design, it just felt like I feel a bit naive to like the workings of the rest of the business, especially when I went in-house. What's the sales and marketing team doing? What happens down there? Customer service, and then the finance part as well. So it made me more well-rounded. Could see all the benefits, the opportunities where design fitted in. I could speak the language of other departments, and maybe my critical thinking level increased. But a lot of hard work. It's not for everyone, but and if I hadn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have gone on to write the book as well, because I've always been good at doing drawing and the creative side. But then the MBA sort of helped upskill me in the report writing and the research aspects of things. So it was super useful. And actually, while I was studying for it, part-time, I was able to do some of the projects which would relate and help with my project work, at work.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's not everyone does it, but yeah, I could highly recommend it, but it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was a passion that you wanted, and an itch that you need to scratch, wasn't it? So, and it's led to great things. So, thinking about your time, obviously leading teams and recruiting for teams. This is a kind of a careers podcast after all. So, how can you think of any times where candidates who have applied for roles in any of your teams, how they've stood out from the crowd? Are there any particular examples you can share?
Things that stand out to me, I mean, when you're recruiting skills, experience and behaviours, I think the behaviours is really important. Who is this person going to fit in with the dynamics of the team? Because you can say like skills are easier to learn than like changing behaviours.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you can make sure that they're going to fit in the team, because it's always about teamwork,
Mm-hmm.
hardworking, open-minded, flexible. Are they going to keep their ego in check, because it is a team? It's a team process. But there are things like their ideation, concept design ability. If they can communicate that in portfolio, someone does beautiful sketches, but not just the odd random sketch showing that I've got from here to this 3D visual and then the prototype, but showing your thinking through your sketching, so you can see it evolve on the page. They've curated the page where you can see it, and you see the way their mind works. That always immediately draws me in. It doesn't have to be sketches, it could be visuals, but you think, right, it's a great way to see, right, but they're in the team, they'll fit in. I can see the way they think. They'll come up with like successful concepts that'll be able to contribute. But also, if you're great at sketching, beautiful sketches, they do stand out. But then other things is people shine in different areas. So if you're unorthodox, maybe you've got a particular skill, but is of value to a design team, because maybe it would design execution. So, for example, years ago, interviewed and recruited a designer who also was passionate about coding, programming. I was like, wow, it was just different to the other. I helped them, sort of progress and to explore it, and there was a benefit where they were able to bring in like automated processes which benefited the productivity of the design team. So they carved out their own sort of niche.
So if you're an industrial designer and you've got an interest in something that's less kind of industrial design, let's say, that's coding, you'd feature that in the portfolio or in the resume? Because quite often it might feature on the resume or the CV, but it's it's like a side note. It's in a kind of the other section or the hobbies or whatever. So would you recommend making more of a deal out of that?
But it was like as an interest, but everyone's different. I found it of interest because I could see, actually there's potential.
Yeah.
And especially now with all the different AI coming through and benefiting the process, like coding, work nicely with that. But I'm sure that there's other things. If it's going to help a design leader in a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it's an extra kind of string to the bow, isn't it? And it's interesting you mentioned about hobbies and interests, because a lot of people are under the illusion that you've got to keep your CV to one page, which if you can, it's nice, but quite often you end up compromising and leaving things out or cramming too much in. And one of the areas that often suffers is hobbies and interests. People think, well, it's a professional CV, we don't need to put on our hobbies and interests. But so often throughout my career, that has been the difference between two candidates, because if you've got a hobby or interest that resonates, either because it stands out because of coding, or whether it's a shared hobby. So if the person's an avid kind of classic car enthusiast and they're repairing their car at the weekend, there's a good sign that they're interested in rolling their sleeves up and getting involved in the workshop. So I can't stress enough how important having hobbies and interests on your CV is. So what in terms of we talked about things that stand out, what things stand out for the wrong reasons? What puts you off CVs or portfolios that immediately kind of you just throw them in there?
I mean, I've times for all the CVs that I have received. So I'm consistent and fair. Always want to like treat it the way, if that was my CV in the pile, I'd also want to give it, give it a good scan. Sometimes you go through it and they're just not suitable for the job spec. I wouldn't have there's not many of the keywords or the skill job spec said, or it's like this is an example. Maybe it's a mechanical engineer going for an industrial and conceptual. Just those types of things. But I mean, the things that it's making sure that your CV and your cover letter aligns with the role. But it always helps with good. No the obvious, no spelling mistakes. If you've got an opportunity on your CV and cover letter and sample portfolio, your skills, your choice of colour palette, how you lay out your images of a project. There's so many opportunities in there to get your message and your skills across. So how it's presented. Yeah. Not sure if that's a good answer.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. No, it's great. I mean, it's I'll put you on the spot there, but it's you're absolutely right. I mean, with the how easy it is to apply for roles these days, you are going to get a lot of irrelevant kind of applications purely because I think it's really easy to just click the apply button, but I think that on a whole, kind of job adverts are poorly written. So there's nothing in the intro or kind of when you're a candidate searching for jobs and looking through the listing, there's very rarely anything that stands out and grabs your attention. So as a candidate, the experience there is really poor. You've got to click through and read it. And if it's a recruiter's advert, generally it's just generic and rubbish. It might have been written by AI, so it's just a regurgitation of all of the adverts of all time, which are rubbish. And if it's an internal one, it might just be a job description, which isn't really suitable. The job description can sometimes put people off because it's a big old wish list of things that actually you don't, like you said earlier, it's just as much about person fit and behaviors as it is the hard skills. So if the job description is focusing on hard skills, then that could put some people off, So I think, but what you said about kind of if you are genuinely interested in the opportunity, and it kind of goes back to kind of how you joined Speedo. It's like, show that you're interested, take that extra time and match up the skill sets. I mean, not that I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT, but I'm sure it'd be relatively straightforward to put a prompt in to say, take a look at this job description, take a look at my resume and reorder it slightly so that it matches the job description or it best aligns with the job description. And then you can tweak it, and that's not much work.
When you're screening it,
but yeah. So,
but I'll always want to, if there's a link to their online portfolio, I'd want to be able to have a link and access that.
Yeah.
Because I'd want previous projects, design skills. So like you say, you're screening CVs, you're screening for skills. And then when you've got a group that you bring in, that's when you find out, so you understand more about them as a person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, we're kind of rapidly approaching time, so we'll move on to the next section. So, a couple of quick fire questions. So, favorite book or podcast? Obviously, your own book is your favorite, but the second favorite book or podcast, I guess, at the moment.
This is one of my favorite, my Ross Braun one. So, I've read it a couple of times. It's great it's got design and business leadership lessons in there. So if you love Formula One, there's loads of stories of Ross Braun working at Ferrari with Michael Schumacher. But also it's done in a way where they talk about what he went six of business and leading the way to the art of war. Like strategy. So it's fascinating. A few things from that. Highly recommend it.
Mm.
Audibles on double speed.
And are you listening to
But in
podcasts
terms
at
of
the moment?
podcast, things like I subscribe to Fashion, so they have some Monocle as well.
Okay.
I've done that. Used to do that in the back.
Oh, fantastic. Great. And yeah, finally, because obviously, we're running out of time. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, Chris. It's been really insightful. And I think I wish we'd have more time, because I'm sure there's plenty more we could talk about. But how can, is there anything you want to kind of, obviously you've got your book to promote, but is there anything kind of, any parting kind of comments that you'd like to give, any shout outs to anyone? Generally,
you can
how
get
can
in
people
contact
kind of
with me
get in
on
touch
my
with
website, chrisjohnson.design. And there's a link on there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, 5 chapters from a book, if you're interested. So you just got to your email, and you can download a PDF with the 5 chapters, which are 5 areas of the book. So the book's built up into 5 sections to become a successful design leader and to design great products. So from the ground up. So yeah, contact me there for design work, coaching in the book.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. It's been really lovely chatting to you. I'll put all the links and kind of some comments about what we've been talking about in the show notes. But yeah, Chris Johnson, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe and tell all of your friends. In the meantime, just a quick note from me. In addition to hosting this podcast, I also run a recruitment business called Kodu. For over a decade, I've worked within the physical product development space, helping startups and established brands hire mechanical design and development talent from mid-weight up to C-suite. I've worked in consumer electronics, e-bikes, femtech, medical devices, design consultancy, basically user-focused stuff. And it's the wonderful people I've met over the years that have inspired me to create this podcast. If you'd like to learn how I can help you hire top-tier design and development talent for your business, please head over to teamkodu.com or message me, Chris Whyte, on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.